Turboskone.
Here we go. We are reviewing the Muse S headset. This is a fascinating piece of equipment that we've been kindly sent by Muse. However, we're not sponsored to do this, so we're going to give you the real beans about our experience with it. And so we're going to be covering the data, the product itself, how well it fits, the charging, the different modes, our results with it, and the benefits, the drawbacks, and whether you should get a Muse S headset yourself. We've known about Muse for a while because we got sent the original one, the Muse version 1, back in 2015.
That's kind of true. Do you remember what actually happened?
You bought one.
So I bought one because I was struggling with meditation. And this was around the same time that you were like brutally honest with me and telling me that I wasn't meditating enough, which we'll get to. And Paul Moore, actually, through Garrett White, I believe, was like, I've got this, I use this thing that tracks my meditation, that gives me data on how my meditation's going. I was like, oh my God, that sounds like the best thing ever for me. I bought one, was using it for months, mentioned it to Yusuf, and then suddenly we get sent one to review. I'm like, fantastic. But we've been sent the more recent one.
Yeah, so we've all got our comeuppance now, but well, no, I'm still up one Muse, aren't I? So
yeah, you're winning. You are definitely.
You'll have to get
winning.
the new version, and then I'll have to pay for the next one.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know what this is, and if you don't, I don't know how you landed on this video, but it's a biofeedback device, and it's a portable EEG, electroencephalograph, and you literally wear it on your head like this. Looks really cool as well. Yeah, and you can see your brain activity on the screen.
Well, you see a representation of your brain activity. So you see a line, don't you? You don't like suddenly see inside of your head.
Suddenly you're in the matrix, and yeah. But what it's designed for is a meditation biofeedback device to get you into the groove. It's basically training wheels for meditating. So when you're in the practice, it'll play a soundscape. As you are more focused on the object of your meditation, so on your breath, birds start tweeting. And as you start to become distracted, the sound of windy rainforest or waves on the beach get more and more aggressive. And so you're using that feedback to calibrate and figure out, okay, here's what meditation is supposed to feel like.
Yeah. And it gives you, at the end of the session, it gives you a score, it gives you points, and it also gives you, like, for the first few weeks of using it, it'll give you challenges to complete. So try and meditate 2 consecutive days in a row, try to meditate multiple times this week, try to hit this length of a session. And it's the whole thing is gamified. It's designed to take you through this journey that hopefully by the end of that journey, you're meditating regularly, which I guess is the point, right? Like, the goal is not necessarily to complete Muse or to turn meditation into a game forever. This is designed to get you to the point where you regularly meditate, because it's a difficult habit, because you can have weeks or months where you're kind of meditating and it feels a bit pointless, and it's maybe even just feels like a waste of time, and the benefits don't really come until 100+ hours into the practice. So that's why it's a very useful tool in the early days of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the box. Very luxury unboxing experience. It comes in this thing. I don't know if you can see that there. Nice little box for the strap and for the unit itself.
I love that you still got it on, by the way.
I should take it off now.
Well, you can leave it on.
You know what it is? It's so comfortable.
It's so comfortable. Yeah, but that's the device, I guess. Like, we should show that. So the Muse that we originally had, that I used my hard-earned money to buy, was I think, and they might still do this one. Like, the basic Muse might still be like this, but it's plastic, and the plastic sits behind your ears, and there's a plastic front that comes around the front of your head. The S is significantly more comfortable, but then there's also a sleep function with the S, right? So you can wear it overnight. I don't think you would ever be able to wear the other version during the night. It would just be far too uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely, and it would fall off in your sleep. So this is elasticated, so it just keeps it on your head. And I did a night's sleep with it recently. Stayed on my head all night. It wasn't the most comfortable. I think you are aware that you're wearing a thing around your head, but Yeah, it tracks your sleep. And we can cover the kind of tracking accuracy in a moment as well. So fit-wise, it's good. It's adjustable. Connectivity-wise, that's where I've had some problems. I don't know if it's just my device. I've not heard you mention any problems with connectivity on your end.
I had problems with the first version. I didn't have a single issue with this version of Muse, which was really good. The first one that I had, which I guess will have been even older, even probably not long after they'd launched, I used to have to wet the sensors and constantly reposition it, and it would calibrate and then lose calibration, and then it would happen halfway through a meditation session. You have to start the session again. Whereas with this one, it's only ever been instant. So there is like a calibration process that Muse goes through where you put it on and it's looking basically, I think, for a baseline to assess everything from. And it used to ask you do you remember it used to ask you to think of a kitchen utensil and things like that?
Think of as many kitchen utensils as you can. Think of as many vegetables as you can. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh God, panic. Yeah. I mean, you're always going to be calm after that, aren't you? After you've been put on the spot like that. But yeah, so it does a calibration session, and sometimes in the past sometimes it just didn't work, or it took a very long time to work, and I would sometimes be sitting for 5 minutes when I only had like 20 minutes to meditate, and 5 of it was calibrating. But this version, seamless for me. Have you had any issues, or is it?
The calibration is pretty rapid. The connectivity is the only thing, and it helps if you have a wet head, as you said, where just so that the pads can fully contact your skin. Depends on your hair situation as well. You know, if you have a shaved head or if you've got long hair, you're going to have different results for that. Charging, luckily, it hasn't got a proprietary charging port. It's something which is quite consistent. It's that mini USB thing. I don't know if I even held that into the camera there. There.
I think it's a mini or a micro, but like it's something that like so many devices use at this point. It's very, very cool.
I've got a Hydra type charger that's just got like the USB 3 Thunderbolt and that one. So you can just charge it on anything. And the battery is pretty good. It lasts, it has to be good to last for a whole night of sleeping. And I probably charge it, if I'm using it frequently, 3-4 times a week, charge it once every 2 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. If you're using it to just meditate and not for the sleep part, it feels like it lasts for ages, which is what you want for something like this. Again, like you don't want it to get in the way of the practice, like what you bought it for. So if it was charging a lot of charge time out to charge it daily, or if the calibration was a problem, that's a big turn off for stuff like this, because it actually increases the resistance of doing something. There's probably a lot of resistance around anyway. So a lot of that, I think Muse have improved that significantly since the first version, which is good to see.
Massively. So onto the actual practice of using the product. It's got several modes, and this is part of the new generation of Muse. So it's got the standard mind meditation, which I think both of us have found really quite accurate, which is amazing. You can even try and test it, and you're like, okay, what if I really focus now? And the birds start tweeting, and then you deliberately distract yourself, and then the noises start coming. So it is tuned in, it is quite accurate, and having a good session where you're very focused will be represented in the graph that it gives you at the end, which is quite cool. Yeah. So that's the mind meditation. It's got breath as well, so it does something, maybe by looking at your sinus arrhythmia to see what's your respiratory rate, and it takes you through different breath exercises. There's one for movement, so you've just got to sit as still as you can, and that's the meditation. And then there's one other one as well.
Heart.
So it's the exercise is how low can you get your heart rate during the practice.
Yeah. I don't really know why they added those other versions personally. I guess they're just adding more features to the app, which is now paid.
Is it? It looks to me like as they upgraded the hardware, it's able to triangulate multiple data points and variables. And so they've just said, right, let's just create something based on each of these. Pretty cool.
True. The one that I've had the most experience with, is it called Mind in the new app? Mind, you're trying to focus on an object, your breath or whatever, and it gives you in focus periods of calm, birds tweet, in periods where you're distracted, the weather gets or like there's different soundscapes as well. So there's in a city, in a park, like just sort of like binaural beats that get louder or more quiet. Initially I found it distracting. So I think which is interesting because I suppose it's like training equanimity at the same time, right? Because you're meditating and you find yourself wanting to hear birds tweeting and wanting to sort of maintain that calm streak. Because the longer you're calm for, as Muse is defining it, the more intense the bird tweeting noise gets. And then that's a score you get at the end of like how many birds you accumulated throughout the session. So you find yourself like trying to chase that almost. And then the traffic noise will intensify, or the noise gets louder as you get more distracted. And that by itself is almost like a stressful experience. And initially I found that annoying because I was like, this is just making my meditation worse. And the session quality is worse as a result. And I think it's only once you've been meditating for a while that actually you realize that that's like an interesting representation of what a lot of people end up doing with meditating, which is like chasing this state all of the time and being annoyed with a bad session and all that sort of stuff. So
absolutely. It's very clever, actually. I don't know if it's by design. Maybe it is by the masterminds at Muse, but there is this second order thing, as you said, it's the self-judgment, and it's the like, yes, I'm getting a bird streak, and oh, this is a terrible session. And then that self-judgment is part of the challenge. And so, as you've said, it's a microcosm of the bigger challenge of meditation as a whole. And so the fact they've built it in, it's almost like they've made it gamified, but really the game is the game. The fact that you're gamifying it is a game. And this is a common criticism of gamifying meditation in general, having a habit goal with meditation and so on. And people often say, oh, the whole point of meditation is that you're living in the moment, and so you shouldn't have goals and you shouldn't gamify it. Now, we spoke to Daniel Ingram, who is a guy who, by the Vipassana school of the Theravadan Buddhism approach to meditation, has completed it. He is a self-described arhat, and he's like, no, it's fine to have a goal. It's fine to have metrics and track what you're doing, because that's your problem to get over and to let go of. That meditation is a useful tool, and it's up to you whether you use the signals as a guide to, am I doing this right? But then you're still doing the practice. Any of the judgments and story that you create about it, that's bigger picture stuff. So Muse is just the messenger. And as you say, if you're getting caught up in the game, it's just reflecting those parts of you that you need to also use as grist for the mill in your practice.
Yeah, great phrase. And then I think if you've been meditating a while, you do eventually reach this point where you can observe these things from almost like a third person perspective, right? So the idea that like, oh, I really want this to be a good session, or I'm really annoyed that this is a bad session, or I really want to chase more of the birds that are happening. That by itself becomes almost the object of the session, as you said. So that it's a weird thing, because I think if you're listening to this and you've done 10, 20 hours of meditating, it will seem like the most strange concept, but that's what's so clever about the way Muse has done it, because you get exposure to that idea before it's even relevant, like before you've been meditating for long enough for that to even be part of the practice. So I was a big fan of that, actually. Annoyed by it initially, but I think it gave me exposure to an idea that I think served me really well the more I meditated, and I moved away from guided things and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think that brings us on quite nicely onto who is the Muse headset for, because if you're watching this, you probably are already sold on the benefits of meditation, and we cover that loads on the rest of our channel, the improvement in your focus and productivity and pain tolerance and emotional stability, and ultimately undoing the illusion of self and time and space, if you want to go off the deep end. So you're probably sold on the benefits, but I think where the Muse really comes to shine is getting you to actually sit down and do the practice. And anything that makes it a joyful, fun experience is great. Forget all the stuff about, oh, you're not supposed to gamify meditation or whatever. Like, don't make it this like separate, sacred thing. Like anything that you're wanting to get better at, you need feedback loops to be able to know if you're doing the right thing. And as you said there, that the hard part with meditation is getting enough of a critical mass of practice such that you're not just wrestling with yourself and you're actually getting into the flow and getting some of the benefits. And really, I think it's probably about 100 hours of practice in total that you need to get to really start feeling the momentum. Otherwise, you're just taking other people's word for it.
Yeah.
And if you're doing 10 minutes a day, that's 600 days consistently to start getting a lot of that in place. And so anything you can do to get more hours in, the better.
And that's the thing that, like, as meditation's become more of a popular concept and more apps are being developed and more people are talking about it in the media and more celebrities saying they do it, and people are doing the 10 minutes a day in the morning before they go to work practice. What used to happen to me, and it's happened to so many friends who've tried meditating, is you have a stressful period at work, or it's New Year, so you think, I'm going to get into meditating, and you do 7 days, 8 days, or like up until the weekend of the 10 minutes in the morning of following the app and listening and following your breath and all that sort of stuff, to really start to experience, like, wow, this is what meditation can do. You're talking about doing that daily for over a year, and that's without missing days, which realistically everybody does. So to not really experience any kind of, like, take any habit, to not really experience any kind of reward for a year, and just, as Yusuf says, take somebody's word for it, that requires a lot of discipline and a lot of tenacity to just consistently sit there and hope and trust that this isn't a waste of time. And so,
well, we felt like when we started that it was all a bit of a joke, that someone had, as a big elaborate prank, had been like, you know what, if you just sit and focus on the tip of your nose for several hours every day, eventually you'll feel better. And you're like, are they just sat in the background just like, look at him? Like,
because it's the cost, isn't it? If, like, I remember we used to talk about this. I would say, like, let's say I'm 80 hours in and it turns out to be a joke. It's just 80 hours of my life gone. And it's not even 80 hours doing something fun. You know, people are like, oh, you shouldn't do that habit, it's bad for you. At least most things are fun, or they're an experience, whereas this is you are literally just sitting there listening to someone listening to someone tell you to, like, focus on the end of your nose or whatever.
There's an amazing breakdown from someone who's done several thousand hours of meditation. I mean, looking at my Insight timer, I've done about 800 hours in total, some of which was pretty poor quality, some was better quality. This guy's obviously a pretty experienced meditator, and he's written out what you can expect to experience at different milestones. I think this is really cool because it gives you something to place, like, okay, this is the amount of effort required to get to this point.
Yeah.
So 100 hours, less stress and anxiety, less fear, less feelings of loneliness, more self-esteem, more focus, better energy, more optimism. At 1,000 hours, almost superhuman focus compared to co-workers, a sense of being driven, aware and intuitive. You probably will have experienced some deep psychedelic states, reduced need for sleep, increased emotional and physical sensitivity, sharper in anything that requires intense concentration, higher pain tolerance, increased capacity to experience love. Like, these are quite fundamental shifts in you as a person. And then by 5,000 hours, very little attachment to any point of view. Much of your ego will dissolve, won't obsess over emotions. If something comes up, you'll drop it pretty much instantly. Deep feelings of peace will pop up unexpectedly and stay for unpredictable amounts of time. Much more control over automatic reactions, worries, angers, hatred. These things don't stay around long enough to impact you. Boredom doesn't occur. I mean, you're structurally and functionally changing your brain. And so if you do something for long enough, that's what you can look forward to. And if that sounds good, anything you can do to get that buy-in and help you on your way.
Absolutely.
One question that some people have is, can this become a crutch using something like a Muse? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it can. So my background and how I do most things is I track tons of stuff. So I track, like, lots of metrics with anything I'm trying to improve. And so when I got this, I don't know whether you remember this, but I did like a 6-week window where I was meditating every day, twice a day, 20 minutes, morning and night, and used the Muse for both sessions. And another cool feature, actually, which we haven't mentioned, is Muse sends a weekly email that summarizes, like, your score, your hours, gives you like a weekly checking email. So I used to take that information and I tabulated it, and I started seeing some improvement in basically the points that Muse gives you on a weekly basis. Now that, especially if you like sort of trying to get the new high score in things that you do, whatever that is, that can become addictive and almost becomes why you're meditating. So you're meditating to try and manipulate the score or hit a certain score rather than building the habit of the practice and trying to deepen the practice and take it wherever the practice needs to go. So yeah, I think it can become a crutch. As to whether that's a bad thing, I'm not really sure, because I think I reached a point where I didn't really need it anymore and was able to just maintain the habit without it, which I think is the goal, to be honest. So I think my view on Muse in general and it becoming a crutch is the practice of meditating will take you to the point where you realize that you don't need it anymore. So whatever it does in the meantime is kind of okay. As long as you don't stop meditating as a result, basically.
That's why it's good to have free-form practice as well as guided practice, and try the different methods, the heart rate, the breathing. It's quite cool just to be able to manipulate your physiology like that. Something that you said was that one of the curious things about meditation is that, unlike other kinds of activities and sports and things, you are both the judge and the competitor.
I said that.
Yeah. So unlike something which
I don't remember saying that.
Unlike something which is kind of externally judged, it's a direct manipulation of your perception. And it's odd because if you're using a tool to give you external feedback for something which the skill of meditation is developing interoception and an internal regulation of that, it seems like a paradox. Mm-hmm. But that's why we just see it as training wheels, and then eventually you graduate from it.
So you did a really good video on the Oura Ring, which is like a activity tracking device. I kind of see all of these things as the same. They're trying to achieve the same thing, right? So it's making the invisible visible. So it's turning in the Aura's case, your sleep, your HRV, your recovery, your activity into a dashboard on your phone. And Muse is taking something that is basically a stationary introspective practice and demonstrating it on an app on your phone. And I think the question is what are you doing it for? It's what are you trying to get out of using it? And with Muse, I'd be very surprised if anybody who's done a couple of 100 hours of meditation still uses something like this. Because I think that you get to the point where you realize it's not really the point. In the same way that if you wear Oura for any period of time or track anything for any period of time, you realize oh yeah, if I just get enough sleep and exercise regularly and kind of do the things that we know work, I recover and I kind of improve over time. It doesn't really tell you anything that you don't already know past a certain point. But I think it's very good for behavior creation. And as you were saying, it sort of gives you an idea of this might be what a good session, however you define that, that's what it might feel like, to feel a sense of focus and clarity and concentration. This is what distraction might feel like. And then you start to associate, okay, this is the sort of thing that I'm aiming at. Because I think it is easy, realistically, to do 100 hours of the wrong thing.
Yeah.
which is pretty brutal, to be honest, when you think about it. You could just sit and think about your day for 100 hours. 2 years later.
Worth the money for that alone, just not to be doing 100 hours of the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. Because you are guaranteed, if you follow the practice and you aim to get as many birds as you can, I think that's the fastest way you can progress in 100 hours of your first 100 hours of meditation.
Very hard to do it completely wrong while improving your Muse score.
Yeah.
And I think that really is the best thing about it. So I think we're probably both in the same boat. I don't know very many people. In fact, I know nobody who's done 1,000 hours personally. I don't know very many people who've even done 100. And I think the reason for that is the stuff we're talking about, right? It's a difficult practice to be very consistent with, because it can be quite thankless for quite a while. And especially if you're doing it wrong, it's going to remain thankless forever. So I think you owe it to yourself really to give yourself the chance of getting to that buy-in point by ensuring you're at least following something that is, you have some inkling of I'm probably moving in the right direction with this, versus just getting frustrated with it, which a lot of people do.
Yeah. And then by that point, I'm going to be honest, you kind of outgrow the need for something like this.
Yeah.
Maybe that's arrogant of me to say. And I still, you know what, I still enjoy using it. Like the fact that we've been sent it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I fancy a Muse session. It's just a nice treat. But you don't necessarily need it once you've gone past that point. And actually, you probably will find it restrictive when you're able to freestyle and you know that you're freestyling effectively. But to get to that point, then you can start to explore other meditation styles after that. So if that's interested you and you're thinking, yeah, I want one of those, if you have any questions, just ask us in the comments. Otherwise, you can use the discount code propane or the link in the description below, and that will always give you the best price that they have available. So it's our affiliate link. It helps support us. Otherwise, let us know any questions.